Kosuanati era one radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yedinsem anumuaye ebre.
Good evening, Era One Radio listeners. We coming your way again this Thursday, the 6th day of January, 2022. Today is the famous day that we had the insurrection that took place a year ago, and so today is a solemn day, even as we observed a year ago where Congress was, impacted heavily. And so tonight we want to take a cue from that, story, but then that's not going to be our main focus. If you want to join us on Era One Radio, being broadcast live on Facebook, YouTube, and Era One Modern Ghana Radio, you can call us on 240-280-2633. And the text to call in is 510-931-096. Of course, I have in the studio with me my permanent guest and co-host, the Reverend Ni Sabah Robert Akrong, the IT guru, a Jewish doctor, and also a Reverend minister. So he's here tonight to help me do this discussion. Tonight we are looking at, does a leader's private life truly impact his public life? Does a leader's private life actually impact his public life? And I want Nisaban to give us some opening remarks, and then we'll shoot into our discussion. Nisaban, you are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Boison.
You're welcome.
It's always a privilege to talk to you and to talk to our audience. Today, we are going to, again, take a hard look at current events and see how those current events were the current events of some time past. How the current event of those times are similar to what we have, or how dissimilar they are, but in terms of effect are the same. So we will look at some interesting things about the test we are going to use, and then tease out some common themes that can help us to understand our contemporary world.
All right, thank you, sir, Nisabam. Well, as I said earlier on, we are broadcasting live on Era One Radio, on the Modern Ghana Radio platform, on YouTube and Facebook. Please join us, share your comments, bring out any questions that you want to bring, and we will gladly entertain them. Of course, my popular and my favorite niece from UK has just joined us. Comfort, you are very welcome. All right, as a warm-up, normally we want to start with a warm-up. Yeah, she says I'm looking good. Thank you very much. All right, Nisaba. So today marks exactly 1 year where Congress was counting the votes for the elections of 2020. And of course, we all know what happened. There was this insurrection that actually took everybody by surprise. Never have you heard of anything like that. So tonight I'm asking, of course, you might have heard it, is our democracy, is it at risk? Because never was this an experience. I mean, we're not trying to be political tonight, but whatever affect the political arena affects us individuals. So some of these things we can't sit aloof and so it doesn't bother us. It bothers me. Political issues bother me. So is our democracy, is it at risk?
Yes and no. I mean, the media is abuzz with articles to that effect, that our democracy is under attack. And indeed, yes. But can our democracy survive? I think so, because this democracy that we have now has stood the test of time. Don't forget, there was a whole civil war. There was the civil rights movement. There was the financial crash in the 1929-1932 corridor. It survived 2 world wars. It survived the Spanish-American War. It survived the Cold War. So we have every reason to believe that it will survive this onslaught. But we will be the first to admit that the forces arrayed against this particular democracy at this time are the type that could topple it if care is not taken. But I believe that the checks and balances are in place to deal with it.
Well, we'll see how the checks and balances will deal with this factor. All right, so most of us have come to believe that USA is a model for most countries when you talk about democracy and stuff like that. Do you foresee the African continent, or for that matter, any part of the world, even trying to imitate what is going on? Because not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, the Ghanaian economy or country, we experienced parliamentarians duking it out in that place. How do you see that? I mean, that was scary. Wasn't that part of the insurrection that happened here?
It's like trends tend to have patterns. Not long, I mean, we understood that the Koreans fought in their parliament not long ago. Ukraine fought. Australia. So again, human beings are human beings. Whenever things don't go the way we expect and we still want to exert our will, the tendency is to duke it out, to fight it, and to force issues. You getting me? So I wouldn't fault Ghana too much. Ghanaians are human beings, and human beings, we have a tendency to make the current look permanent, and anything that forces change, we would fight it. So that's what it is. I won't put too much stock into that. If other places, Taiwan, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, UK even, and then you have America General says, if all survived, what makes us think that Ghanaians won't survive? We will.
So you think this kind of Takashi is a necessary evil? It must sometimes come.
I wouldn't say it's a necessary evil. It demonstrates the tendency of human beings. It's not the tendency of Ghanaians or Africans. It's the tendency of human beings. So humans do what humans do, and Ghanaians are human. And so they did what humans do. Nothing more, nothing less.
All right. Okay, we're going to dive into our study for tonight. We are looking at how the private life of a leader, an individual, actually impacts their public life. And we're taking a case study of Daniel. The story of Daniel gives us so much to glean from and to learn from. So I will quickly read where we started from, and then we'll move from there. Of course, it's Daniel chapter 1, verses 1 through 10. And so I read, and then we'll take it from there. All right. In the third year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Joachim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Aspenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. 6. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. 9. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who had appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. All right. So this is the story that is depicted here. And so we realize that Daniel's private life, he wanted to live on veggies instead of all the sardinam and the stuff that the king wanted him fed on. So we are looking at his private life and how that impacted him. Okay, now Daniel takes a risk. Of course, it wasn't so much to his private personal life down to the chief of the eunuchs. Now, Reverend, my question is, how did Daniel's decision of the reluctance to eat the king's food as a portion, and how he imposed that he wanted to eat his veggies, how did that affect his lifestyle, leadership style? I mean, basically, how he withstood and reluctantly decided not to follow the king's dictates.
Thank you, Dr. Boison. Again, you read this text and it's like fortune was thrown at Daniel. Who wouldn't like? I mean, your abilities have been recognized. The king was willing to promote you. The king was willing to give you exactly what he ate. What could be better than this? Right? So the issue then becomes, why would Daniel call the king's meat and his wine defilement? What did Daniel see? What did he understand for him to take such a stand? Right? And so when you dig a little and you want to do the work of a detective, looking at the facts, and you put everything together, Dr. Boison, a certain picture emerges. We've seen this in different places, and we've discussed it over time. But today, what I want us to look at is bring all those facts together and do some sort of induction and look at how do the facts actually together in combination, what picture do they paint? What interpretation do they compel? You getting me? So you have a whole king traveling all the way from Babylon, over 500 miles away, with all the logistics to go and literally surround Jerusalem, Judea. And then the Bible says God gave Jehoiakim into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar with some of the vessels of the temple. So now we see that not only are humans captured, but resources also pilfered. And they are all taken to Babylon. Now the king calls his administrator, Dr. Boison. The king called his administrator and puts him in charge of these children. Mind you, the king said, choose these people out of the stock of Israel. They must come with certain abilities. And Dr. Boison, if you look at these abilities, they are quite interesting. They must have aesthetic appeal. They must have wisdom. They must understand science. They must be cunning in knowledge. And they must have the ability to stand before the king, which means they must have the ability to operate in the corridors of power. Okay, that's fine. But look at the sort of training and the circumstances surrounding their lives. Their names were changed.
Okay.
right? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. Their names were changed. The content of the knowledge that was going to be given to them was not a Judean or Jewish knowledge. It was Chaldean knowledge. The language they were going to speak as a means of communication, it was in Jewish, it was in Hebrew, it was the language of Babylon. Now we understand the names they were given were the names of gods. So their spirituality being taken away from them. Right? Now we see the food and the drink being influenced. And then the kicker is that despite the fact that they were the talented ones, look at the people who were going to be their bosses.
The eunuchs.
And now put all together and look at what is happening in our contemporary America. We have a saying here in America, if you're a black person, you have to work twice as much to earn what a white person works normally to earn. You getting me? We have cases. The norm has been the top management. If you go to a typical American company, the top management are all white. You go to, it is when you get to the lower ranks that you see blacks. You understand? Meanwhile, Dr. Boison, at this time in America and serious parts of Europe, the most educated people are black people. So why are they not the managers? Why are they not the top administrators? We are looking at the same picture here. The people who were to have the skills were not in charge. Somebody else was in charge. And those people, we understand, were eunuchs. Eunuchs who were not reproductive. You understand? They called the shots. So again, we come back and we realize that Nebuchadnezzar was up to something. Was he trying to corral these children of Israel to build his empire at the expense of their own homeland? Are you getting the picture clear?
Yes,
In their case, he's literally carted them out of their own country. Now they are in Babylon, serving Babylon's interest, whereas their own homeland was left to rot. Isn't it what you and I have done to Africa? Are you getting me? You and I, Dr. Boison, you and myself, I am not going to get tired of bringing this issue up. We are giving our productive years to another country. Look at our language. You and I, we speak English. We don't speak our local African dialect. These people were being forced to speak the Chaldean language. And their instruction was going to be in that language. Look at what is happening in Ghana now. How many of us would like Chui to be the lingua franca of Ghana? We will fight it to death.
Yep.
You getting me? Oh, we would like English to remain there. But listen, there was a time, if you could rattle the English language like somebody I knew, you necessarily were smart. You necessarily were smart. And somebody with mathematical scientific background, but couldn't speak the language as fluently and as eloquently as whoever, was not deemed to be as equally smart. We are seeing the same thing here. You getting me? So, Dr. Boison, there are parallels. So, Having put the facts together, what picture do we get? What was Nebuchadnezzar up to? Was Nebuchadnezzar really interested in promoting these people for the sake of promotion, not having an agenda? I don't think so. Because if you stack the facts together, you realize that something was actually behind the whole thing. You're getting me? And that's exactly what it is. Our own homes, our own countries are not as attractive. So we've left. Our own language, our own dialects are not as attractive. So we don't speak it.
But isn't it about time? Isn't it about time that somebody stood up and enforced some of these things?
That is the point. That's why Daniel is a case study. Why did Samuel? Because you see, Dr. Boison, it wasn't just the food. It wasn't just the food. He also rejected the drink.
Okay.
You getting me? I see two things there. Because Dr. Boison, they were not going to be kings after they had gone through training and whatever, but their taste was going to change.
Okay.
Are you understanding? So would they have the means to support the lifestyle? If they build aristocratic taste in them, like the king was doing with the food, and they develop the taste for call it monarchical meal, would they become monarchs to afford it when their time was done in terms of their schooling? No.
Reverend, let me bring your mind to something that just passed through my brains right now. All right, so when you graduate from any university in Ghana or Africa for that matter, when you bring it to this country, United States will level you to ground zero.
Yeah,
we've all gone through. Your certificate doesn't matter so much. All right, juxtaposing that with Daniel's case, they came as captured slaves from Judah, and this guy was able to stand up and say, you know what? Although I'm a slave, I'm not going to stand up to this fact that I'm going to eat my own food. I'm going to speak my own, language. He stood his ground. How can Africans bring our certificate to here and tell the authorities here? Because when you bring your certificate, you have to take it somewhere like New York for them to evaluate and kind of place you in that level that America can say, okay, now you qualify so and so. And even that, it might be lowered. How can we enforce that if we are to align it with what happened in Daniel's days?
The point is, they want you to conform, and they are going to judge you by their standard, not the standard of your country, but they want the skill that your country built in you. But they will use the standard of their country to determine how you match up. Dr. Boison, I remember I applied to a certain place, not a good place. It was a warehouse. I needed a job. When they looked at my certificate from Legon, they said, University of Ghana, which state? The person which state in America is the University of Ghana? They didn't know, and they didn't care.
But our problem was that we were learning all the 50 states here in Ghana, learning all the geography, everything. And here we are, they know nothing about our place.
Dr. Boison, that's the picture I'm trying to paint for you. That it would seem as if these children were being promoted, right?
Okay.
Don't forget, Babylon didn't build these skills. They came with it. Babylon was only going to take advantage of it by superimposing Babylonian literature, Babylonian language, Babylonian spirituality, Babylonian identity, Babylonian taste. Are you getting the picture clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's what has been done to you and I. That's why we couldn't stay in our country. our taste was changed. We used to love Kobe. All of a sudden, Kobe became the meal of a non-sophisticated. You getting me? If you were sophisticated, you ate corned beef, bacon, and baked beans. That means it's nothing but your gagari.
Without the Gary.
Our taste was changed. That's all I'm trying. So Daniel is trying to tell us something. That fight where you can and bide your time till you have the strength to strike from within. You're getting me? So whether we like it or not, how many people will call me by Nisaban? Few. They know me by Robert and they will choose to call me by Robert. Even if I protest, no amount of protestation on my part will cause them to start calling me by my African name. Maybe myself, if you call me Nisaban, I might not respond. Yeah, we are dealing with facts. We are dealing with, you understand? So Nebuchadnezzar's agenda was not only to bring them, it was to change their identity so that they can serve Babylon. And Dr. Boison, as long as they served Babylon, Judah will lie
waste and ruins.
Are you understand? As long as they spoke the Babylonian, the Chaldean language, Hebrew, will not develop.
It's normal.
As long as their medium of instruction was what?
The Chaldeans.
The Chaldean language, the Jewish language will not develop the sort of technology to be able to become a viable lingua franca to deal with the scientific and technological developments of the day. These are facts we are dealing with. That's why tree cannot be. Are you getting me? These are things we have to, and Daniel understood. Daniel didn't have the power to fight everything, but he understood. So start actually psyching yourself, rejecting those things that can corrupt you. You understand? So Daniel, the food was just a way to tell us that Daniel understood. And Dr. Boison, look at the fact their names were changed, but the Bible continues using the name Daniel. Daniel, that was his Hebrew name, but he had this Babylonian name. He didn't change. So these are the type of writing where the author is going somewhere with the facts as presented. Whereas the other three, Mishael, Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, were called, these were their Babylonian name. Daniel was called by his Jewish name. Yeah. You understand? So his name didn't change, so that if anybody of Jewish descent heard the name, that person knew that he had a kindred spirit somewhere who could be of help. Here I am, Robert Akrong. Meanwhile, we have a city called Akrong here, so the Robert Akrong is as American as anything you can think of. Are you getting the picture? So this is the sort of test that should help us to understand how to fight quietly. You understand? We may not be that powerful now to go full blast, take the fight head on, but we must be smart as to how to wage the kind of warfare that will help us, one, not to lose our identity, two, not to develop the sort of taste that will be too expensive for us to keep up with.
Reverend, I'm going to dance around a little bit. I'm going to ask you this question, which is not directly in this, but it's been bothering me. I want to ask. You did history and you did literature, so you are well-versed in all these places. In reference to Daniel, here was somebody who, I'll use the phrase, stood on his ground. He knew how he'd been brought up and he wanted to maintain that status quo or the character traits or the virtues that he has, so he could stand on the ground and say, King, despite your rich food, whatever, that's what I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat what I'm used to. And he was able to escape. All right. My point here is we have recently, and normally every year 31st, we have our prophets that come to prophesy. So I'm going to that domain. All right. So the IGP, Dan Parry had said he didn't forbid prophesying. He only said that if you come to prophesy, just make sure you are not giving out prophecies that will produce fear and panic.
Create panic, yeah.
Fear and panic. So, and then someone misquoting us saying, no, he didn't want us to prophesy. Okay. Now, there are people who, because of, no, I wouldn't say fear, but then they still wanted to do it. I'm still looking at the Daniel's, boldness and character trait that he was able to stand his ground and be able to declare to Aspenas, okay, this is what I want. And here we have prophets who said they heard from God, but then they couldn't still declare their prophecy the way they wanted to. And so now we have a new name for Ghana called Umofia. You did literature, you know a lot of history.
Yeah, that's things fall apart.
Okay, now tell us about Umofia and tell us about these prophets who actually did hear from God, but for fear of IGP, couldn't stand their grounds just like Daniel did and were dancing around the situation. How do we believe some of these things?
Dr. Boison, the Bible said prophecy is for edification, not to create panic.
Okay.
Are you getting me? Now, if God has spoken to you about somebody's death, why can't you call him
the way it is
quietly? But you have to stand in front of a whole congregation to make that pronouncement. That's where the disconnect is. So you know that these people are seeking fame. It's as simple as that. Seeking fame. Ninja Gesi, who said Umofia. You understand?
He went to your place. He went to Legon.
Yeah. But the fact that you go to school doesn't make you educated. That you could be schooled, but not really educated. And by the way, there is a difference between wisdom and knowledge.
That's true.
He may have knowledge, maybe he lacks wisdom. If you heard from God and you are a man, why couldn't he say whatever? Why did he have to hide behind Umofia? Are you getting me?
That's unfortunate.
Why did he have to hide behind Umofia? And by the way, why 31st?
Exactly. No other time. God only speaks on 31st.
Yeah. So these people are after fame. And the IGP, this is a security issue. I am 100% with the IGP. If you really heard from God, go ahead and say it and let it come to pass. Are you getting me?
Exactly.
Because it's too much. It's too much. And the whole reason is they use that to get the weak-minded ones to believe them, and then they transfer their resources to them.
Will this thing ever change?
Well, now we have Dan Parry. So Dan Parryism is there. If you are a man, go and say certain things, and you will see what Dan Parry means. So yeah, there is a little check. Are you getting me? So, hey, I'm not saying they didn't hear from God, but if they heard from God, couldn't they use wisdom? What prevented them from calling the people involved and quietly counseling them?
Exactly.
Why did they have to stand in front of the whole world to proclaim somebody's private predicament? Why so?
Because if you look at the boldness, like I said, on concerning Daniel, and later on in the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these guys said, we're not going to bow to the king's golden image. And say, you know what, king, we're not going to bow. If we bow, we burn or whatever. And they went to the fiery furnace. And because...
But that is what we are dealing with. They are telling us how to fight. Our spirituality, you and I, they told us everything about us. Our ancestors were evil. Our ancestors didn't know God. Everything about us was fetish. This They were fighting for their spiritual survival. You and I, what are we doing? Yanananum, 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 sumabosum. Who said so? Our own forebears who held the forts for us. We said they were idol worshippers. So everything about them, the knowledge they had gathered, we let go. So, yeah. We have to understand Daniel understood something. Daniel understood something, and we are here. In the case of Daniel, he was forced, but we are here. Some circumstances forced us. Can Daniel become a role model? Can Daniel become a case study for us how to fight the fight of good faith? And as we are here, start strategizing. You understand? Start strategizing. How do we make our homeland great, even if we are not there? When the Europeans came to Africa, did they adopt our language? They rather imposed their own language on us. So this is the battle cry. Are you getting me? This is the battle cry. Yeah, we are not Africa, and Africans may not be in a position to wage a full frontal warfare, but we can wage mental warfare.
Reverend, let me take a quick commercial, and then when we come back, I will ask some pertinent questions about Daniel, what we can do, because we try to do the Daniel fast every now and then. That's about all we can do. But we don't actually implement the qualities of this man. We'll go into that when we come from this quick break.
Okay.
Hello, beautiful people of Ghana. This is Banahine Specialist Hospital. We are so excited to announce to our people Ghana that we are finally opened and we are accepting patients. At Banahine Specialist Hospital, our extraordinary physicians and nurses are here to provide a high-quality medical service to our extraordinary patients. Our services include primary care services, maternal, neonatal, and pediatric services. We also have an in-house pharmacy. We have x-ray and laboratory services available to you. Come to us for all your healthcare needs, and you will be happy you did, because we believe the health is wealth. Thank you, and stay blessed.
Kosua na ti era one radio empenyini say yensoma na motenten yesoma banyasafo era one radio yedin nsem anomuaye ebre.
All right, you're still listening to Era One. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and also on Modern Ghana Radio. And in the studio with me in the hot seat is Reverend Robert Akrong, also known as Nisaba. All right, so before the break, he was giving us all the details about, and then I said I was going to ask about some traits that Daniel exhibited that we have to learn from. At the beginning of every year, I know most churches and most religious groups embark on what we call the Daniel fast, where all they eat is the veggies, just like Daniel did, no meat and all that stuff. But then we fail to implement some of this character traits that Daniel exhibited, because he was a man of integrity. I mean, he was somebody who stood to his ground. But then most often, when we're done with the fasting, that is all. How do we even implement that in our day-to-day life? How can we go back and resolve? Because it looks as if some of us are losing our identities. You come here, and like I said earlier on, your certificate doesn't matter. You have to start all over again. You have to go through the process of accreditation or all that for your certificate to be reviewed, and they grade it some before you even become part of the system. So if you were to speak to the African community, how can this example traits from Daniel be useful to us? How do we apply them?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Boison, you made mention of fasting and this thing. Fasting is great, but the fasting we do is more of dieting. You understand? The type of fasting we are doing is nothing but dieting. We are just restraining ourselves from food. but there is really no goal behind it. Daniel didn't just fast. He had a reason for fasting.
Okay.
Are you getting me? In this particular text, Dr. Boyce, I want you to read. Let's read verse 8 carefully. It says, but Daniel purposed in his heart. It wasn't a random thing. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. It was something he had thought about. He purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat. What the king ate, he called it defilement. Nor with the wine, what he drank. No. You understand? Therefore, he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. And then look at what the eunuch said. He said, and the prince said unto the, I fear my lord the king. So this king was quite the powerful king. His own people feared him. Now look at a slave. You understand? So, but Daniel knew what he was talking about, because this eunuch said, listen, the issue here is that you must look fair. If you don't eat the king's meat and the others did, and time came and you couldn't match up, then the consequences will be die. Are you getting the picture clear?
Yes, sir.
But Daniel stood his ground and he knew what he was talking about. That's the difference. It is not a question of just taking a stand without knowledge informing it. Are you getting the picture clear?
Sure.
Daniel knew that the food of choice for him was better. He knew the requirement that beauty, aesthetics was required. But he also knew the food he was used to, that it had what it took to make him presentable without contaminating himself with what came from the king. You're getting the picture clear? So it's not enough for us to just take certain stands without knowledge informing those stands. I hope you are getting the picture clear, which means we must take the trouble to know what we possess. Daniel knew the power in the food he was used to. Do we know ours? Do we know ours? How many of us will be more than willing to sit in public and eat kenke? We will hide. Are you getting me? Meanwhile, go to Ghana today, KFC and pizza. Go and see how many people are queuing for them. You get me? So we are looking at some certain things that we could learn. One, knowledge. Daniel displayed knowledge and he displayed wisdom, but he also was principled. He understood the game being played. Are you understanding? He understood the game being played. And then one vital thing, the Bible said God gave him favor. This was his spiritual side. So we must fight the battle from all fronts. And for heaven's sake, knowledge is important in this. Our identity is at stake. Everything about us is at stake. How are we going to fight this fight? Listen, we started with this general system. What were they fighting for? All of a sudden, they realized that they were losing grip. They were losing out to people they thought historically couldn't amount to anything. Now we're beating them. So, whereas there was a time they denied us knowledge, everything was that you had to do. Now we have literally made nonsense of that idea that intelligence is in color. Now that is a useless idea. But they want to keep, because that's what gives them any sort of edge. But we must learn to take the fight to them. So what happened in General Seas was a reaction to changing times. But are we aware of the times changing? Do we have a strategy in place? Do we understand the game being played? Do we know the rules of engagement? Or we are just there? All we care about is the green.
The green, Benjamins, yeah.
You understand? So these are the things we could learn from Daniel. The Indians are smart. How many Indians are changing their names? So we could learn something. How many Chinese are changing their names? Except the African.
Yeah, let's hit on that point, because we're going to be running off very soon because of another program that is coming exactly at 7. So we'll be leaving quite early today. On the point you hit on, when you go to Germany, of course, the Germans are proud of their dialect, their language. I don't think they've adopted English as their national language. Japanese, Chinese, and most of these people. But of course, because the British kind of took over our country and changed our language, so English has become official language. If we are to stand our grounds like Daniel, is it possible to revert the national language to English? Is it an insane thing to do? And would it ever even be?
What prevents us from doing that?
And who will do it?
No. It's a question of political will. Dr. Boison, let's say, to face reality on the ground, maybe we may not be able to face English out immediately. But can it be gradual? Can we say that, okay, yeah, the way the world is, English is the official business language.
Okay.
But we also have a national language. Could it be our whatever, whichever one we choose?
That will even become a debate.
Each place, each region, whatever dialect is spoken there. So if, let's say, we choose Twi because of their superior numbers, right? Twi becomes the national language. Hey, I am Gan. In addition to English and Twi, I can speak Mangan.
Okay.
You understand? But we have something that we can communicate across without anything standing in the way. But you see, the problem is we've been bred to suspect each other.
You will suspect.
You getting me? Not to trust each other. If Twi becomes the language or the official local language, the Twi people are going to be dominant. What of Kusasi? That small language, how many people speak it? Twis will fight it. What of Ga? Why should we speak the language?
You will even say that Ga is the official language of God.
Yeah, but they call us fishermen. Didn't a whole actor say the last time that he hates guns and then he hates our language? Meanwhile, he's living in Accra. No, Dr. Boison, what we are saying is Daniel displayed wisdom. That's the bottom line. Everything he did was informed and strategic. Can we learn from him? How do we fight the fight in such a way that we will not arouse suspicion, but yet will be effective in achieving what we set out to do? Are you getting? Because at the end of the day, Daniel understood If I use everything about me to develop Babylon, Israel will be left unattended to. Just as you and I, we are here, we are giving everything to America. Ghana doesn't benefit from our skill set. It's as simple as that. So how do we now become, should I use the word conscientized?
Okay.
You understand?
Mindset.
In order to fashion out a system, you understand, to always act in a way that factors Ghana, Africa into the equation. We just don't act. You understand? We just don't take certain steps. We are conscious in the way we act. Every move of us, every move of ours is informed by certain goals. That's what we are talking about.
It'll take a lot of effort. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is. It will just take a mindset. We have to reverse some of our.
It has to start.
Yeah, it has to start from somewhere.
It has to start. Daniel started it. You see, the Bible doesn't tell us that he fought everything. He didn't. The Bible actually doesn't tell us that he refused to be educated. He refused the content of the knowledge he was given. It's not in the text. But he started, he rejected something. And look at the way he did it. He took advantage of a relationship.
That's true. That's true, because when I read the scriptures, I didn't even find out what happened when the book of Nebuchadnezzar asked everybody to bow. We don't read of Daniel bowing. Some scholars say because he was out of town.
They stood their ground. They stood their ground. They knew their God. That's why we must know. Our ancestors knew Nyami. They knew Yehovah. Our ancestors were not idol worshippers. They were not demons. Europeans will not say their ancestors were demons. Why should we say so? Why? Why should we say so? We know that our herbalists can cure a lot of diseases. Do we accord them the sort of respect we give Western trained doctors?
Well, let's say 2022 is going to be a different year. We're going to have a different mindset and things are going to change. Let's just take it that way. Lydia Boison is saying good evening to you, Pastor. And so I believe you've enjoyed our discussion tonight. Like I said, we're not going to go the whole 7 p.m. because there's another program, very important program coming after this program, the Divine Connection. So we'll do. But then in a jiffy, I will give Pastor Nisaba Akrong the platform in a minute or two to summarize and give us his closing remarks with all the passion and enthusiasm that is brought on our show tonight.
Dr. Boison.
Yes, sir.
They say the world is changing. They say China is going to be the next superpower. China is gobbling up Africa at an alarming rate. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not ready to trade European colonialism for Chinese colonialism. It is about time the Africans stood up and said, enough is enough. Who said the world must continue? I mean, 1945, when they set up the United Nations, 4 Western countries became members of the permanent security, members of the Security Council. America, France, Russia, Britain, and then China. Africa is the second largest continent. Why don't we have a permanent seat? Why haven't we demanded it? Yeah, I agree. When they went, they didn't consider us. Now we are part. Whether they like, why can't we insist that the world dynamics must change? Why can't we insist? I don't want us to become rotating security members. We want a permanent seat. It's as simple as that. Who said the amount of money you have, your developed economy must give you the power, the sway and everything? No. People are people.
Well, it's like respect is earned, not just giving. So I guess that's what it is.
We don't care who gave them. How did they earn their respect? Did they put us? Did they factor us?
Well, we allowed it. We allowed it without
so
thought.
Now it is up to us to demand, and that's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. Why Africa, an African country, must be a member, a permanent member. Permanent. No decision can be made at the Security Council level without an input from a permanent African nation. It's as simple as that.
All right, that is what Nisaban says. Africa needs a seat on that platform, and like I said, we have to earn the respect. We have to do what we have to do to prove to them that we are capable of sitting there.
We don't have to prove to nobody.
Well, then why are we not there? We have to do something.
Dr. Boison, that's the lie. Prove to who? Who made them masters?
Well,
who made them masters? Prove what to them? Well, and what have they proven to us?
We have to look into that. As to why hitherto we are not there, that's another question. We have to look into it there, because if you are saying we have to be there, then we have to find a means of getting there. Why are we not there? That's the question we have to ask.
Certain decisions are made at certain levels and we don't have an input in.
All right, Nisaba, I think we are almost out of time, but we'll pick up this discussion later because it's a very sensitive one. I'm sure if I give it 10 minutes, you hit up. So we'll just rest there for tonight and we'll pick up later. Thank you very much for coming, helping us with this discussion. I want to say thanks to Comfort. Thanks to you for joining us tonight. Era 1 is still 24/7. There's a program right after this that you want to enjoy. There's a 30-day fasting program going on. You want to be part of Era 1 and join in this celebration and this program. Of course, tonight from 9 to 10, Warimun Sem is coming your way. Joe2 and TB and Dr. Fum will be coming your way tonight. And listen to Era 1 Friday, Saturday, throughout the weekend. The quartet, the Nkomon Kitten ladies will also be live. And of course, music is played throughout the day on Era 1. Thank you very much, Reverend Robert Akrong, my permanent guest. Also host. Thank you for gracing our studio with your presence tonight. We appreciate your knowledge and skills and offering your time, because I know you sacrifice a lot to make this program what it is. And I've been your moderator, your host, Charles Boison on the Divine Connection Show. I'll see you again, Reverend, next week, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Hallelujah. Amen. Christ over.